I've already showed you how to use opacity and transparency, but also take advantage of blending modes. And I'm going to put a project together just to kind of give you an idea of how you can do this. First of all, starting out with just placing a simple graphic on top of this image. So I'm just going to Bridge, and I'm just using the images that are in my Chapter 5 folder. I'm opening up a circle graphic, and I'm going to right-click on this and choose to open with Photoshop CS4. Always a safe thing to do, especially if you see a graphic, so that you don't accidentally open it up in Adobe Illustrator if it is a .ai file. Now I'm opening up this file, and I'm just going to drag the tab down so that I can see both of these images together. I'm taking the Move tool, and I'm holding the Shift key as I drag this from one file to another. And again, the reason why I'm doing that is to make sure that it is centering itself on top of this other content. Now I'm going to the Layers panel. I'm going to pull it up by clicking on the tab, and you'll notice that I really can't see the image behind the graphic. But if I start going into my Layers Blend drop-down menu, I can choose different blending options so that I can see through the underlying pixels. Now the type of blending option that I choose depends on the effect that I want. And even though if you go into the Help menu and you type in blending modes, you can find out definitions for each one of these blending modes, a lot of it really depends upon the underlying pixels and what color they are, and the pixels in the overlying layer or in your painting mode to determine what the effect is. So it's best to kind of experiment to see what you can do. Now, I just highlighted my blending mode drop-down menu and I selected Darken. But if I want to experiment and go further through these, I can hold my Shift key down and press the arrow key down. Now you'll notice that I am now in multiply blending mode, and if I press Shift and arrow key down again, color burn, linear burn, darken color, lighten, screen, I can rotate through these different blending modes. Now once I'm down in the menu a bit, I can also press Shift arrow up to go up through some of these blending modes. So you can kind of determine which one you like best without having to go through all the work of selecting each one individually. Let's say that I like this one for now, and of course I can change it at any time. But I'll turn off the visibility and I'll click back on the background, and I'll show you another way that you can take advantage of blending, kind of combining a bunch of different tools. Now one of my favorite blending modes is Vivid Light, but this time I'm going to use the blending mode when I'm painting. So I'm selecting my paintbrush, I'm selecting Mode, Vivid Light. I'm changing my toolbar to 2 column by clicking on that little arrow up there so that I can easily click on my foreground color, and I want to choose a yellow color, or I can even come out and select a color from my image. Now what I'm doing now is I'm setting up to create light streaks. Maybe I want the effect of sun rays coming through a window off to the right. And of course, to do this right, I should really create a new layer because I don't want to destroy my existing document. So I selected Vivid Light. I'm going to make a brush size a little bit larger, a little bit softer. And the great thing is I can experiment now. I'm just going to click outside the image area and then Shift click down a little bit lower. Now you'll see that when I click and Shift click, of course it does connect from one point to another. This might be a little too opaque, so I can undo, Control Z, because I'm on a PC. I'm going to press 2. And of course 2 puts me at 20%. And now I'll click outside, Shift click to connect. And you'll see that it's starting to look like a light ray. Now if I discover that that color is a little too dark or a little too light, it is on a separate layer. I can adjust it using curves, or if I want to, I can even come in to my color picker, sample something a little bit lighter, click OK, click up here and Shift click. Now I'm going to add some additional rays. Click up here and Shift click. Another really great thing to do if you want to be more precise is to create this lined image in Illustrator and then place it into your Photoshop image and then apply the blending mode to that entire layer so that you've got perfectly straight lines. Now what I'm going to do with this is just go back in and erase some of the areas that I don't want to apply the streaks to. So I'm adding a layer mask because I'm trying to be safe. I might need those streaks again in the future. I'm clicking on my default colors, pressing X to bring black forward, and then I'm just painting, making sure that I'm back to normal 100% by pressing 0 or dragging. And then I'm painting black, but you'll notice that I have my mask active so that I'm dropping that lighting effect out of her so it looks like the light is coming in behind her. But again, just playing with this blending mode in order to get this effect. Now let's take this a little further. I'm going to bring in another image. So I'm going back to Bridge. I am taking my coffee cup image. I'm right clicking and telling Bridge that I want to open this up in Adobe Photoshop CS4. I'm going to create a logo, and maybe I even want to put this logo on top of a coffee cup or something. But I want to add some effects to this. So what I'm going to do is drag this down, take my move tool, put this over on top of my image. Yes, that's fine. I'm going to close this up. I don't need it anymore. And I want to create this kind of rough effect of paintbrush, but I want to leave that coffee cup white. I don't feel like selecting it. I don't feel like going through all the work. Two of my favorite blending modes are one called Lighten and another one called Darken. Darken looks at the color information in each channel and selects the base or blend color, whichever is darker, and that is the result color. The opposite of that is Lighten, where the base color or the result is the lighter color. So what I'm going to do here is apply a yellow background so that I don't have to select that coffee cup. I'm clicking on my foreground color. I'm sampling one of the potato chip bags, clicking OK, going to my paintbrush tool, and I am choosing that I want to lighten this. I'm also changing my brush to a little bit more artistic, sketchy brush. And then I'll come out to this image and I'll just start painting. Notice how the white, since it is lighter, does not become affected. Now this actually is really cool. What I've found is when you're changing the color of something that has a lot of spaces in it. Let's say that you're painting a blue sky and you have a dark silhouette of a tree. If you use Darken and you start painting a darker blue, it will not affect the tree because the tree is darker, and that remains the result color. So it makes it easy for you in that you can avoid making selections in a lot of cases. Let me just touch this up a little bit. And now I'm going to bring in another image. I'm going into Adobe Bridge and opening up an image. And this image is called the coffee shop image. You'll notice that in the paths panel, I already have a saved path. And the reason I did that was so that you didn't have to sit here and watch me struggle through making a pen path, which is the ultimate way to make a selection of something such as a coffee cup. So you'll notice that I'm going to activate it just by clicking on the path. You can see the vector path here. I can click on the Add Layer Mask button and then Add Layer Mask again, which builds my vector mask. I'm pulling this image down so I can see it, clicking on the Move tool, and I am dragging either the image or I can take the entire layer over to my other image. Don't want to save that. Now I'm going to position this cup so that it's underneath the logo and just pull the logo over a little bit. Maybe shrink this down by using Command or Control T. Now it looks like a flat, opaque logo has been placed on top of this coffee cup. I'm going to make a simple change by changing the blending mode to multiply. It blends in with the coffee cup underneath. Now multiply is used a lot for drop shadows and other effects like that. You'll see that if I want to put a shadow in but I want to see a little bit of the content underneath it, it's really helpful. And I'll just add some darkness behind the coffee cup so you can see that by clicking on the layer beneath the coffee cup, adding a new layer, but I'm holding down my Alt or Option key when I add the new layer, calling it darkness. It adds a new blank layer on top of the active layer. I'm taking my paintbrush, I'm pressing D to go to the default color. I'm making sure I'm at multiply. In fact, I might even sample a brown color. So while I'm on the paintbrush tool, I can hold down my Alt or Option key and sample a brown color. Change my brush back to something a little bit more normal. That's a little big. Okay, click up in my options bar and then start painting in multiply mode. Now that's really heavy. I intentionally did that so you could see that I'm still not seeing through the detail underneath. So I can undo, Control Z. I will press 3. I'm now at 30% opacity. And you can see now that it gives me more of a shadow effect. And the great thing is when you're painting, don't forget, stick with those lower percentages if you want a creative, artistic build of color, because you can always continue to add color and it looks a little bit better. And again, it gives you that feeling like you're actually painting something, which is really nice.